Welcome to Miami.
Yeah, welcome to my home.
Yeah, it's a crazy home. Yeah, we had a really interesting sound bath experience, and then I actually felt Mei Chen through you.
Yeah, I was feeling the same thing actually. It was really intense.
Yeah, you could like the signal just
Super strong.
Yeah.
This is the first time being physically together, right? After being like a year together on Zoom, and so the physical presence was amplifying everything.
Yeah, I think I could also kind of feel into others too, and I think that's what we're both working on.
Yeah.
You especially because you just became a mentor.
Yeah.
For CC, this bootcamp, Cohort 8.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you end up here?
Yeah, well, I mean, in CC itself, this is my fourth bootcamp now. So I've been through 3 bootcamps, and this is the first one as a mentor. And like you were saying, I think because now as a mentor, I'm directing my attention more outwards towards other people and connecting to other people's experience. It's training my awareness to kind of do that more by default. So I'm feeling more connected, a bigger sense of self, I guess. So that's why, like last night, I was feeling like you. I was feeling all the people of CC through you, and
I felt the same.
I can feel
the mandala.
the mandala, the whole mandala.
CC mandala. Yeah.
I think it really feels like it's a way of training in kind of omniscience, like the way to feel into other people or other places and times and know what's going on. It's a weird thing, but you can actually feel it when it's happening, right?
Yeah, I think when you take on other people's afflictions, like the way like mentors are trained, I think some mentors say, especially cons, that the sits could be more tiring because you're taking on so much. But then the fitness then is to stay with the afflictions of others and use that as a fuel for actually our own development.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what we're training for, right, as mentors.
You work on how to like smooth out that karma. First you learn how to do it on yourself, and then you learn how to smooth out, help other people smooth it out. Yeah, I remember the first sit of this cohort, I sat down and I was feeling like super like anxious and this kind of anticipation energy, which I never usually feel during sits.
It's probably not yours.
And then I realized, it's all the new people in the cohort, and it's like you can feel that, even though we're separate and on other sides of the world on Zoom, you can actually like feel that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of the conditionings that we were first taught to deconstruct, is that separation between screen and real life.
Yeah.
And even when like Mei Chen could be like, wherever he lives, and each one of us in different part of the world, when you come into a mandala, there's actually no distance. Yeah. So the transmission is not even coming from there to here, just like you're not perceiving the world through a subject or an object. Yeah. It's codependent rising. So it makes sense that the transmission is actually, it can't be located. Yeah.
That's one of the actual deeper realizations that I had last year, is kind of the notion of space. We kind of know that time is a construct, but space is also a construct. And when you really like feel directly what's actually happening, everything is like here. There's like nowhere else. Everything is here. So any other being you're talking to, hearing their words, it's all happening like here. So that.
Sometimes when I listen to the transmission with the headphone, it's more obvious that it's actually like, it's not actually like there. It's not even here. It's like neither inside or outside, but
there's no location anymore. It's just like, it's all the same,
So I listened to your dissertation again yesterday, and then it made me cry. Like I shed a tear.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
which part?
I think that's the most emotional dissertation I've ever heard.
Oh, wow.
Well, at least within CC, because I think the mentors were assigned to almost do like a paper, like a PhD paper at the end of each cohort, and each person has like a karmic profile that they're profiling. Yeah. And your subject is...
Well, my subject was just my life. Yeah, so they asked us to put together a dissertation on a topic that was like interesting or relevant to us. And my life is pretty diverse. I have a lot of interest in a lot of different things, and I didn't really know what to talk about. And Jace, one of our instructors, basically said, like, just write about your own personal journey, the obscurations you faced, how you worked through them. So I ended up writing my dissertation as like an autobiographical case study of Ryan, his disposition, and how he's evolved over the years.
Yeah, you say you don't usually talk about yourself, and how are you feeling now talking about yourself, and how did you feel during the dissertation, knowing that this might be public? Like
that's a stretch, and I guess that's why I ended up doing it, because I've been running businesses for years, and talking like publicly about concepts and teaching people things is very easy. But when the subject of the conversation is myself, talking about myself, for some reason I have a lot of like resistance to doing that. I think it's just like conditioning of feelings of like unworthiness or something like that. Like, I'm not interesting, why would anyone want to hear about myself? And so it's really hard to talk about myself. But then when people like say that it touched them, it's like, oh, interesting. So it's always like, part of me is like, why would you cry about that? Like, there's nothing interesting there. But then another part of me is like, it's just relating, right? Like human to human relating. So yeah, it's a stretch for me. But
what I found interesting was your background, how sorry. All right.
There's some water.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You can always cut the.
Do you want some water?
I got some.
Well, what I found touching about your dissertation is a couple of things. The first one is like your background, like you're a very, very successful entrepreneur, and we can go into that a little bit, how you became pretty much from most people's perspective in modernity, within samsara, quote unquote, like you've made it. People want to accomplish what you have accomplished. And you sold your company to like Google and YouTube, and at one time you said you were not taking control, but you were in charge of half of the traffics on YouTube.
Of YouTube, yeah. So the quick version of the story is,
where did you study in college? How did you decide you want to be
studied
engineering
at Stanford. I'm from Australia, so I studied my undergrad in Sydney University in Australia. Then I went to Stanford for grad school and studied electrical engineering. And so my mind was very like technically oriented, conceptual, logic, reasoning, this kind of thing. And I had this view that you could understand the world through an intellectual, conceptual lens. Like, that's how you can find the truth. Like, it's all about science and everything.
Materialism.
Intellectualism.
Yeah.
And I got really good at that. And like, I have that strong capacity to do that. But around 2013, I think it was, I started to get this kind of nagging feeling that it's not it. Like, it's incomplete. There's more to it than trying to understand the world in this mental model. And I remembered back to when I was in high school. I used to get really good grades in art class as well as like math and science.
Oh, really? You're good at art?
I came first in art class, I remember.
That's also pretty rare, because usually people who are like really good at conceptualizing or like the rationality, like quote unquote left brain, if you want to make it totally, they're not really that good at art, and vice versa. So even that is already kind of breaching that duality.
I started out with, I guess, a balance, but then I focused on all the intellectual side for years and years and let the creative, intuitive side kind of atrophy a bit. And I had this recognition that I had done that, and I consciously decided I need to reawaken my intuition, I called it.
And this was before you discover any kind of like non-dual teachings?
Yeah, this was like the very beginning of what I would say is like the spiritual journey. It was that realization, and I realized I had to do some kind of ritual or ceremony to mark a shift in my life. And so I did a vision quest, which is a Native American ritual, inspired by Native American ritual, where I went to Death Valley, California. It's a desert, slept on a mountain for 4 days by myself with no food, just kind of really connecting into nature and getting a vision for what do I want the next phase of my life to be like, and just trying to reawaken that
as Adrian said, the magician, right?
Well, that was a big part of it. Adrian talked a lot about the archetypes of masculinity in his dissertation. King, warrior, magician, lover is what he talked about.
He also talked about the beast.
And the beast.
The beast, I find, is the most interesting one.
Because
the beast, he said, is kind of like the underlying current for all the different archetypes.
The primal energy.
And then there's also the sage.
And
the sage, the beast,
at the wisdom at the end.
And then,
But that's actually one of the big things I was contemplating my vision quest, is in modern society there's no ritual where a boy becomes a man. And that transition from knowing yourself as a boy to knowing yourself as a man, I think, is an important transition for people to make. And so that ritual was my personal transition point. I marked that. I consciously decided I am now a man, and here's what I stand for, and here's how I'm going to live my life.
And you were so inspired by that one author, David
Data is his name. I had read his book. I hadn't met him in person yet, but at that time I had read his book, which was called The Way of the Superior Man.
I read that.
Which is really inspiring to me. Like, it awoke something in me. Like, there's a very deep truth into what he's saying.
What about it that really resonated with you?
So-
Is there any particular? Sometimes when you read something, you're like,
Yeah,
oh, this
yeah.
one sentence, or like something just clicks.
I wish it was taught to everyone in like in high school, because he explains in very clear terms what the fundamental, let's say, essence of masculine is and feminine is. And it's not about men and women, because every person has both masculine and feminine essences in them. But if you really tune into what does it mean to be masculine and what does it mean to be feminine, he articulates it very clearly. And when you really tune into that, you can understand everything. Like any arguments you're having in your relationship, you can understand it through this lens and see very clearly, like energetically, what's going on. Because usually in a relationship, one person is acting as the masculine half of the pair, and one person's acting as the feminine. And the way those two dispositions interact, there's kind of almost like a physics to it, how that interaction happens. And once you really learn to understand what's going on and how to master it, it changes everything. So I read that book and it was very eye-opening. I trained with him for like decades afterwards. Or a decade. I went many times in person to train with him at his retreats, and then I started assisting his retreats. My wife and
in your dissertation, you said he's realized.
He is, but but he's channeling his realization into his art form, which is teaching people about this masculine, feminine dichotomy, and how to actually have really amazing sex is what he's kind of most known for.
But then you were interested in that, of course, but then there's...
Exactly, I would go to his talks and he would be talking about like sexual energy and how to master it, but then parts of his talks would be about like, what is consciousness? And that really was what like piqued my interest. Like, I want to talk to you more about that kind of stuff, and I would ask him questions about that. But he would answer them, and it would give me a lot of insight. But I realized I need to find like a path where I can really go deep into that side of things and understand just the nature
So what is
of mind.
consciousness from where you were standing when you're studying with David? At that point in your journey, what is consciousness to you?
At that point in the journey, my definition, which I think is still a good like working definition, is there's part of your experience right now which is unchanging. It's still an empty, but it's aware of, let's say, everything else in your experience. And then there's all the like the light and sound and bodies and forms and emotions and all the content, which is constantly changing, very impermanent, constantly changing. That's what David would classify as the feminine, the constantly changing part, but the still unchanging, seemingly unchanging observer in some sense. Obviously this is not an ultimate definition, but it's just a working functional dichotomy. That still unchanging sense of always been here, always will be here. I was the same when I was born, I'll be the same when I die. Like that unchanging part he calls the masculine or consciousness.
I think in CC we have the terms like being in presence.
Yeah.
So presence will be more like the unchanging, the all-pervasive, centerless, luminous awareness, and then how we aggregate as beings are becoming.
Exactly.
Our trajectory or the appearances, the sensations will be like the beingness. And then I think the ultimate realization is the marriage of being in presence. And then you can scale that model to just feminine, masculine, and see how that works out in human relationship.
No, 100%, because it's really hard to put into words, and they're all just kind of metaphors, but at the ultimate level, everything is kind of...
Yeah, at the ultimate level, everything you look at, you can see, there's a duality here, and there's the merging of that duality, and there's that which is beyond duality, it's includes both.
But then functionally, you can kind of split it out and make a distinction between, the being in the presence, or the feminine and the masculine, yin and yang. You can make these distinctions as a functional distinction to then like work with it in some way, but at an ultimate level, there's no actual distinction. It's all
no separate. So what I found like touching about your dissertation is the fact that a lot of people in Silicon Valley, for example, or a lot of people that just made it in terms of like their career or even having a family, they found themselves unable to still be satisfied or be happy. And even if they go on the path of spirituality, a lot of the times, if they're not coming from the right view or the right effort or have the right intention, they can still be perpetuating the same cycle of samsara that's keeping them there, even when they try to escape it. That's what we call those catch-22.
Yeah.
Right? You can't solve a problem using the same conditioning as
that got you into it.
Yeah. So,
100%. Yeah.
and despite a lot of people having that intention, especially now, you went through it, and you said 4 cohorts, and last cohort. This might be a little personal to talk about, but you realized self-emptiness.
Yeah.
And you awaken to at least
at least an initial.
That's a big. That's already
initial milestone.
Yeah, but that initial milestone from the CC perspective is initial, but for the rest of the spiritual marketplace, that's pretty much the endpoint. We've talked about this before, but you pretty much got what you were seeking for
at the time. It's funny, when I first joined CC, I remember writing in my journal, I want to get stream entry in like 9 months.
But at that time, did you know stream entry was an auto-realization? Because
the definitions were a little unclear.
Unclear.
Yeah. But it took 18 months from when I wrote that down. I was trying to speed run it, and I think I did go pretty fast. But my engineering brain at the time was like, how to optimize, how to get it as fast as
I remember in the beginning when you had me one with Mei Chen. There's a lot of struggling with the best technique.
Exactly.
Should I still be doing this or that?
And it's because that mindset is what makes you successful in business. Like it's always about like going as fast as you can, out competing others, etc. That mindset leads to success in business or other aspects of
modernity.
Life. But in, say, a meditation practice, it can become a hindrance very easily, because that grasping energy, always looking out there for the next thing, you're not really looking like what's here now, which is where the answer is. But yeah, to go back to your point, so Silicon Valley tech scene is, after Stanford, is where I spend the next 15 years of my career, starting companies. I sold a company to Google, as you said. I started many more. But I still felt like something was missing, and that's why I went on the vision quest and unlocked this whole spiritual journey. But I've got a lot of friends who are in the same position, have made millions, billions of dollars sometimes in Silicon Valley, success by all conventional metrics, and they're still like feeling that hole, some gap of meanings missing, like why am I suffering? Why is my life not feeling like what they imagined it to be? And they start looking. I got a lot of friends that are starting that seeking, like, how do I find it? And it's hard to kind of point people where the answer is, because their mind is so locked into a certain way of being,
certain view already.
That sort of rationalism, scientific materialism, intellect, all the stuff I talked about. Those tools is what helped them become successful. But to move beyond, you have to be willing to let it all go, and it's a very scary thing to be willing to let it all go.
Yeah, that part was the part that really I could relate to that. I mean, everybody on the path who's gotten to this point can probably relate to that. That's why I felt like it was very relatable. So how were you able to let go, and what does that even mean to you to let go? Because obviously you still have what you have,
That's
right?
the thing, like it's still there, and it's still like an accessible tool whenever I need to use it. But I also know it's...
you're talking about the intellect.
The intellect, the reasoning, understanding the world through a scientific materialist lens. Super powerful tools to use in everyday life, but realizing that it's just kind of an empty set of tools. So it's nothing inherently fundamentally true about them. Realizing that the truth, what is true, is like beyond all of that stuff. For me, it was just the awakening of the intuition, like I said, with the vision question, being willing to hold conflicting ideas in the mind simultaneously and allowing them to both be true. I kind of started exploring super woo-woo stuff like shamanism and magic and all these kind of things, just to understand like what is actually going on here, because
you needed that practice, that view, that's antithesis to the,
exactly,
or I guess capitalist intellectual, to knock you out of it. But for most people, if they stuck in that view, okay, now they're about spiritualism now, where before they're about materialism. But if they still don't see that even spiritualism is just a remedy to cure the quote-unquote disease of, say, materialism or intellectualism, then they're still perpetuating the same karma.
Exactly.
But you're able to see through that.
And what I love, like Taylor, one of our instructors, teaches about views and negating views. It's not like you're negating this one and now taking this other one as the truth. You're constantly negating. You're using these opposing views as tools to like break down the structures that you have, to eventually you end up with like no view.
Which means you can
There's
embody
no
all views
ground.
simultaneously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I guess another important piece to like deconstruct these views that was useful for me, and I know a lot of other people in the tech world, is kind of the psychedelic renaissance that's happening, especially in Silicon Valley. You know, it's obviously a sensitive topic, but it is a tool, and combined with Burning Man culture. I'm a big Burning Man burner.
Yeah, you met your wife.
my wife at
That's a
Burning
whole
Man.
other story. We can get into it a little bit later, but that was also another point that really touched me.
But these cultural emergent phenomena of psychedelic renaissance, Burning Man, and the overlap with like the tech world has helped kind of break people free from those rigid structures. I think I credit Burning Man as one of the most important kind of cultural movements in our generation to really help people break out of those structures and turn more towards like the awakening path. So
Yeah, seeing that the technique and even the intellectual tools are just scaffolds.
Yeah.
And even meditation techniques like Vipassana, even self-inquiry, they're just scaffolds. But seeing how scaffolds are also empty of inherent existence, then now you have the flexibility to use them without being identified to them or ratify them as some kind of identity.
yeah,
It's actually quite simple, but it's just so hard for the mind to recondition or refragment itself. That's why we're doing CC, just to repattern. We're not trying to get rid of anything, we're not trying to fix anything. It's just a process of recondition your ways of compounding phenomena, the way you aggregate compounds over and over again. It's just, that's the really the most difficult part. And then you're really not letting go of that, except for just resting and recognize how that plays out, and just let, I guess, karma or play themselves out, let the phenomena compound, decompound on their own accord.
Yeah. I think you're letting go of like the clinging to it. Like it's still there, and you can still use it whenever you want, as fully as you did before.
You're probably even fuller than before.
Even better, because now you have the flexibility to really see what's going on. But you're no longer clinging to it as like, this is like, I got to cling to this belief, because if I don't, like, there's this kind of existential fear of like, what? But you have to become comfortable with that fear of the unknown. Like, if I let go of all views and everything, what's going to happen? Am I going to go insane? Am I going to die? Like, it's a kind of, it's an irrational existential fear that can arise that you have to become comfortable with.
Yeah, I think in CC we call that fear of emptiness. Yeah. So I think you were working through a lot of discomfort, and you say one of your maneuvers is just to like go into nothingness, go into stillness, because you don't want to like feel a lot of the really intense feeling. I guess we say we pay homage to our afflictions in CC, and then that's the difficult part, right? You just unwillingness to feel and see every part of yourself.
Yeah, the habit that I had developed in my life to dealing with intensity is kind of a certain dissociation from it. I think when I was a young kid, I was probably like a very sensitive kid, like feeling things very sensitively, and it was a lot to deal with. And so my body learned a way to deal with it, is to kind of suppress it, distance myself from it. Like Adrian, one of our mentors, called me a bubble boy.
A bubble boy.
It's like I'm in a bubble, a bit like distant from reality.
You're probably a monk in the previous life.
Maybe. Yeah. And so I got very good at distancing from experience, and I was always attracted to hanging out in that space of nothingness where there's like just nothing happening. Like for me, that's very blissful, just like nothingness.
But Burning Man, is a lot going on though.
Burning Man's intense.
Yeah.
So through CC, I had to really start to see how I'm distancing from the moment at a very subtle level, or gross level as well, and start to like allow myself to reconnect to those sensations and be with that intensity, and see that there's nothing bad about that intensity, right? It's just an experience. It's just kind of retraining the way that I habitually distance myself from it to now like welcoming it and being in it. It's funny because I like Burning Man, and I have experimented.
But you also when you were I guess an entrepreneur, you had to do a lot of like meetings and talkings to the crowd, interacting with a lot of noise. So maybe that's what drives you to kind of maybe verify the nothingness during a certain aspect of your training, is because you had to deal with that so much, right?
Yeah, I think it's just exactly. I have a lot of intensity in life, businesses. I've got 2 young kids. Like there's always a lot of intensity. Then I go to my meditation room and it's like quiet and peaceful. And so there's this shift. There's like the peaceful meditation zone, and then the messy, noisy life zone. And my practice, I think now is really
just to see them, they're not separated.
Yeah, not compartmentalizing and seeing through all of it and realizing it's all just kind of happening. And it's a practice. It's like a slow practice to retrain the nervous system, to be honest, because it gets easily overwhelmed, and I can see that it just dissociates when it's too much.
Dissociating.
In some ways, I crave the emptiness, the nothingness.
You can always use it as long as you recognize that's what you're doing. You can always use it like a warm blanket as long as you don't verify. There's nothing wrong with sitting in emptiness, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
The problem is like most people, they cling their identity onto the nothingness, and they're still spinning the same cycle.
Well, that's what I love about CC. It's very often repeated, not to cling to anything as some kind of ultimate view or disposition. Like, don't cling to nothingness, don't cling to emptiness. Like, you just had this realization, cool, like enjoy it, but don't cling to it, because it's invalidating everything, because the truth is like there's no ground, or there's nothing like inherent, right? It's very fluid and unknown.
I think we call that a non-affirmative negation. It's like you negate something, but you don't affirm the opposite. And you don't even affirm the process of negation. So it's a tricky kind of, I guess you can call it yogic maneuver. So like, how did you learn to yoke into the transmission? And when did you, at first when you joined CC, how did you discover CC?
Well, obviously through...
But you didn't discover my videos, you say your friend?
I found your videos through another guy I was following on Twitter who like would tweet a lot about his meditation practice.
What's his name?
Nick
I know him. Like, I've talked to him, he booked a few calls with me. Cool. He has a very popular Twitter, but then he would post sometimes about pragmatic dharmas, especially like meditation stuff.
I loved following him on Twitter because of the intersection of like the tech world. He used to work at OpenAI and a researcher.
I think he actually realized self-emptiness.
I think he did, But his tweets were just very raw and like direct sharing of the experience. I'm like, wow, this guy's like sharing something. I loved reading it. But then he would always mention like he loves watching Frank Yang videos, and like, okay, I got to check out Frank Yang. So I watched your videos, and like they're awesome. And you posted in one of your videos or on Instagram, I think, about CC. It was like the day before applications were due, and I just DM'd you on Instagram like, I want to join. And next day I was in CC.
What did you read that made you want to join in terms of like the descriptions we had about it? Because back then it was still very different, the way we structured it.
It was the commitment and accountability structure that attracted me to it, because I had arrived at the point of realizing that first I realized that awakening is possible, like through following people like Nick and others. Like, awakening is actually possible. It's possible in this lifetime, and it just requires work. Before that, I thought, what is like awakening? It's this mystical thing, takes many lifetimes, whatever. Once you realize it's actually possible, then I realized, well, actually, it's possible, and I want that. Okay, that's my priority now. Like, nothing's more important. So now, how do I do it? So I'm like trying to find authors and teachers. And when I found CC, this very structured program of like meditate every day with a group of people who are all focused on this same goal, I realized that's what I wanted, like a container of, fellow practitioners to like really just stay accountable. And
did you feel connected right from the start, or was there like a doubts or a little struggle?
There's been doubts.
Maybe still now, like doubts happens all the time.
They come up all the time. The fortunate thing now is any doubt or thought that comes up, I can just see it as empty, right? It's just, okay, cool, that's there.
There are also healthy doubts too.
I mean, it was very interesting to come into CC and practice this transmission-based training for the first time.
What did you do before? What kind of practices did you do in terms of like kind of?
I followed people like Daniel Ingram or Shinzen Yang or these kind of pragmatic dharma, and I would do like
Angelo Adeshanti.
Angelo, the standard kind of like noting practices and like jhana practices, like all these kind of things, tools and techniques. But I guess I was more, so I love the tools and techniques because they appeal to the intellectual, conceptual part.
To the modern mind, that's very popular.
But that let's say intuitive or creative side is attracted to the more like magical elements of like Vajrayana is very like magical transmissions and like mandalas and deities and
or even shamanism.
So I love that in CC we merge both, like we go very deep into the philosophical like deconstruction of all these like Buddhist texts and really study them intellectually. But then there's like the very ineffable aspects of transmission. Like, why can I feel how can Mei Cheng feel what I'm feeling right now and speak to that? Like, how is this happening? You don't have to understand
get some
it.
visions too, right? Some mystical visions.
Visions, they're getting stronger and stronger, actually.
Recently?
Just recently, this cohort, they've been getting really much
What
stronger.
kind of visions do you have here?
It's honestly hard to put into words because they're very non-conceptual, but I've been starting to get really good at yoking into other people's experience. I guess putting my awareness so fully into someone else that I can feel their experience. And the openness required to do that, when I'm in that open state, I get a lot of other, like I was getting visions just yesterday about like my business and what I need to do as the next step to like make more money. And
so the vision isn't, sometimes it could be other people's experience. That
Yeah.
could be part of your vision, right? Yeah, or the mixture of the collective or whatever.
It feels like, okay, it's other people's experience, but it's also not others.
Yeah, because there's no
the feeling,
others.
it feels
Yeah.
like, it just feels like it's just experience.
It's just experience itself.
Yeah. It's really hard to explain these things in
Yeah,
words,
I
but
know.
you're better at it than I am. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you about like the 3 things that you put on your website. You said you're going after the 3 big things, like the enlightenment, the what is the other
on
2?
my Twitter.
Yeah, your Twitter.
I can't remember the exact words, but I think I wrote enlightenment, loving family, and generational wealth, something like that. So I'm following the path, what would be traditionally called the householder path, right? Like,
right.
I'm not a monk. I'm not living in a cave in Tibet. My karma is like being in the world, making money.
But it's funny because you also, in
family.
your dissertation, you say you're a lone wolf. You like kind of go into your solo realization bubble a little bit, that tendency. Like,
Well, that is another.
that is the duality. Not a duality, but I can kind of relate to that as well, actually. I'm like very outgoing, but I'm also kind of like a lone wolf at the same time.
It's because I think you can relate to people at wherever they're at. Like, you're very good at relating with people, and I think I can do a pretty good job of that in like business or whatever. But what's important to me personally, it's hard to find other people that I can connect to on that level. Like, my wife and I connect on that level, but there's very few other people that I can even talk about like the deeper things that I'm really contemplating until CC, and now I can talk about it every day. But it feels lonely. That's why it was, I guess, a lone wolf, because I just didn't feel like there was no one else I could talk to and learn from, so I'm just gonna like do this on my own.
So it's not like you feel more energy being alone, because some people, they draw energy from being alone, maybe a little bit.
No, I am more introverted than extroverted for sure. Like, if I'm around a lot of people, it can be draining, especially the more I'm tuning into other people and feeling all their emotional states and afflictions. And I don't yet have the fitness to be with all of that. It can be draining. So I do need to sometimes retreat to the quiet, alone space.
Was there a chasm that you had to cross going from within CC, like leaning into the mandala in terms of like how you approach your practice or even your view as being as a solo practitioner? Because I had to cross that chasm. Like, the team has to pull me out of like the solo realization bubble to relate in order to, I guess, train your bodhicitta energy.
That, I think, was my biggest block. So in cohort 5 and cohort 6, I was very much doing my solo kind of thing.
Yeah, you didn't share much either, actually.
Didn't share that much in discussions. I loved being in discussions and listening to people, but I was kind of reluctant to share for some reason. And then it was only in cohort 7 where I was in 7A, the advanced cohort, which is 100% focused on relating. And through Jace, one of our instructors, helping to kind of teach us how to actually relate and the importance of relating. That really like totally opened something up in me. It's hard to explain, but I used to like love the sitting meditation in CC, and then the discussion. I'm like, do I have to do this discussion? It's kind of flipped, and now I was looking forward to the discussions and the relating and the sits, like whatever, I don't need to sit.
Yeah, even when we have a pretty crazy experience, it's like sometimes you just get used to it, you normalize it. But the relating part is actually where a lot of the fitness needs to be built up.
Yeah, and I think that was critical to opening up. I guess you can call it opening the heart or something, but it's opening up something that's blocked. And that tied into actually opening up more to receive the transmission. Because to really receive the transmission from a teacher in a kind of devotional sense, a kind of Vajrayana sense, you really have to have that devotional appreciation for what you're receiving. And You can't be like closed off and lone wolf. You've got to be like surrendered to that. And that was a big opening for me last year.
Yeah, you talk about reading that book, Guru Drinks Bourbon,
Yeah,
and you said that really changed your perspective about like the guru-student relationship. How did that come about?
Yeah, I didn't understand what was meant by a guru before, and even in life, like I've got a lot of friends who have like business mentors or life coaches, and I was
never really had them.
I was like, fuck that, I don't need a coach, I don't need a guru, I'm my own guru.
Like Mei Chen is like my first like, I don't know,
Yeah.
teacher, mentor, like someone I could call that my mentor, someone I want to learn from. Yeah.
And it was that book, The Guru Drinks Bourbon, that really explained very clearly what this guru relationship is. And it's not so much even about the other person, it's about the disposition you have to take on to accept someone as a guru. You can accept like your dog as a guru. It's more about your own changing disposition than the other person. It's obviously great if the other person is a fully realized being, that's awesome, but the shift is more internal. And so once I read that book and understood what it meant and the importance of making that shift, it became very easy to make that shift. And as soon as I made that shift, I literally had my stream entry moment within weeks. And it happened really quickly.
So talk about your stream entry, non-experience or whatever. How did you? I remember, was that the time when you were like wearing the Nike sweater? Because
I was wearing a Nike sweater, not at that exact night, but I had started wearing the sweater and yoking into your...
Yeah, Cohort 6, I was promoting the Nike sweater for no reason other than like I find them super cool. And then I had to meditate.
And everyone in CC started buying them.
Yeah, and then you were one of the last ones to buy because you said you didn't like the polyester. What is the material?
Well, because it's made out of, I think, polyester.
I don't even know what that is.
I only like wearing natural fibers. Right. But then I saw that was a very like fixed view that was like very rigid.
It's kind of like veganism.
And sure, I still prefer wearing natural fibers, but there's also like, I can wear polyester if I want.
But this feels pretty good, right?
Especially if, it feels good, soft. And especially when everyone else is wearing it and there's a whole energy behind it and it's a kind of a shared experience.
Then this becomes a transmission.
Exactly, yeah. Probably sounds weird to people to think that the sweater is a transmission, but like you can feel it when that was happening.
Actually, you can. Sometimes when I wear the same sweater as Mei Chen, when a lot of people are wearing it, I could literally feel the transmission is coming from here. That just shows you how transmission is completely flexible.
Yeah.
Like the meaning of the transmission can be etched onto anything.
Yeah.
And when the meaning and the appearance and the emptiness and all the connecting, compounding, all like kind of become inseparable, then transmission could be the wall.
Exactly.
It could be your phone. It could be your karmic tendencies could be the transmission itself. Like the tiredness, the sleepiness in that moment could be the fuel.
Exactly. And if you had said that to me like 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't have even known what you're talking about because the mind is stuck in such fixed patterns. But once you start to let go of patterns and structures and you kind of enter this space of unknowingness, then you can start to really see what that means, what you just described around the transmission. And it's really just like a tuning into a non-conceptual knowing. The conceptual knowing is actually a barricade for you to actually feeling the non-conceptual knowing that just like you just know it's true. You just know it. You can't necessarily explain it in words. You can try. Hundreds of people have tried, thousands of books in Buddhism trying to explain these ineffable concepts, but ultimately they are beyond concepts. So,
I think Mei Chen said something really interesting about non-conceptuality. He said most traditions describe omniscience as a non-conceptual phenomenon, but non-conceptuality is actually not the opposite of conceptuality. It's what's beyond, but includes both conceptuality and non-conceptuality.
Exactly.
And it's very hard for the mind who is still in duality to see that it's impossible because they will negate concepts and then they'll verify no concept or like no thoughts, which a lot of the people who are into like modern non-duality are stuck in. Verifying like no self, for example. And the CC, we do a really good job of pointing that out, especially to each other, because like as a group, a lot of what we do is like poking each other, right?
Poking each other and
that's part of the relating.
Helping people see the views they're hanging on to and getting people comfortable with just hanging out in this space of like, there's nothing to actually cling on to, like there's no view, there's no ground, and just being comfortable there. Like you don't have to resolve that, just like stay there unresolved and see what happens. And
then you said a lot of the practices in A is about directly relating to people, and they actually have this thing called a hot seat, right? Like each week there's a acolyte, or I guess initiate, that gets pinned.
Yeah.
Like, what's that like for you? How many times did you? I remember when I got pinned, you were there, and then we kind of share similar karma in regard to like friends.
Yeah.
That's another conversation.
That
But
no, it was great. We had this concept of the hot seat where someone was getting pinned, so I would be the subject of the meeting, and everyone would just be sharing very directly, sometimes brutally, honestly.
What's the most
what they can
hurtful
see.
thing you've heard?
And it's not even like you're trying to hurt. You're trying to hurt out of love.
Yeah, out of love.
So the metaphor is like you're poking them with a sword, but at the end of the sword is like a lotus flower. Like it might be painful, but you're like trying to you have their benefit, the best interest of that person at heart. And sometimes you need to be brutal to like get through to them. And so,
what was the brutest comments or feedback you've gotten from the group?
I don't remember like anything that really hurt me that much, to be honest, because I pretty much welcome it. But like, for example, things like Adrian saying like you're a bubble boy, like you're disconnected from reality. Like for some people, maybe that would be really painful. But when he said it, I'm like, okay, yeah, like you're right. I can see that. Thanks for pointing it out. It's kind of like that's the way I would feel about it. Like it's gratitude for like having the courage to say the difficult things.
Yeah, that's why compassion is also a fitness. It also requires a kind of a power and finesse. Where I think most people think compassion is just about feeling good or like warm-heartedness, but actually sometimes compassion is saying the right thing or the brutal thing that people need to hear in order to let go of their view.
Yeah, if you truly have the other person's best interest at heart, sometimes the only way to knock them out of where they're stuck is with something painful. You can use anger or something that would be temporarily hurtful but long-term beneficial. And it's hard. You have to take a risk to do that, because what if they don't receive it in the right way, and now you've
the timing is off. And then you have to take responsibility for that as well. So how do you think that all the relational fitness that you gain in CC, how is that translated to, you said the top three, right? The realization, the family,
and making money.
How is that translated to the other two?
Well, it's still a work in progress. I don't claim to be an expert. It's
an ever-ending kind of journey.
That is probably the biggest area of practice right now that I'm working on improving. Is just relating more to people, because I live my life pretty like closed off, lone wolf, distanced.
You even have like two wolves.
Two huskies that look like wolves. I got my wolf tattoo. So relating to people, like it's kind of it's vulnerable to just be very like intimately present with someone. Like even if you just make eye contact with someone and hold eye contact while you're talking, it's a very like intense vulnerability.
Yeah, it's very intense.
And most people, including myself, is always like looking around. So just training to be like present with people, because when you're present with someone in that way, you can feel, for me at least, I can feel so much of what's going on with them that it was too much and I would have to disconnect because it was too intense to be in that moment together. And just training the fitness to stay in that moment and not have to like drop out of it.
That's actually that edge where you're like, there's discomfort, but you're neither dissociating nor are you grasping or trying to get rid of it. That edge is actually what we talked about today, like the tension. That training just to sit and rest with, through and as the tension, and recognize its pattern is pretty much
you just recognize
practice.
it, you feel it, you sit with it, you realize it's nothing bad about it, it's not going to hurt you, and it kind of like resolves as you just like look at it, feel it, welcome it. It just kind of like...
And sometimes like relating to other people is the only way you can see some of your afflictions too, like mirror through others. Yeah, because it's hard to see that for yourself. But even if you're like a solo practitioner, the whole path is also just about relating too. You're relating with different aspects of yourself. But now we're just taking that practice to relating with other sentient beings. But it's actually the same practice, kind of just sitting with that edge.
Exactly, like the importance of the Sangha, like the Buddha Dharma Sangha.
And modernity.
And modernity is the CC's innovation, but
that's why it's perfect for you, right? Like you're very, how do you call it? Like very integrated modernity already, kind of.
Yeah, actually it is like the householder path that they used to call it traditionally, because it's really how do you bring this path of realization into just living a life, a regular life. In some ways, it's probably easier to do it if you just go to a monastery and disconnect from the world, no distractions, but to do it in the world.
Didn't you want to do that at one point?
Like there's fantasies, like sometimes when life gets too intense, there's fantasies of like, if I could just go and like sit in a cave in the Himalayas, that would be so much nicer. But it's like a temporary thing, because at the end of the day, like I love what I'm doing, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. Like having kids is like the best thing, and it's the best part of my day, just seeing my daughters and having an amazing wife. And having businesses, it's like a challenge to solve every day. Like, hey, what have we got to solve today? It's like, it's exciting, it's fun, it draws me into living. So that's why I do it, I guess.
So do you think like the fitness you've gained through relating in CC, in the training, like has it improved a lot of the ways that you relate, like with your wife and kids and people at work? How has that changed? Sometimes it can get even more difficult.
It does get more intense.
More intense because you can feel and see more clearly.
Well, it's interesting because it brings your afflictions, I think, more to the surface. So, my wife and I are very connected. So as I started practicing with CC, even the first cohort, she wasn't in it. The second cohort, she joined and we practiced together. But even in the first cohort, when she wasn't practicing, she was transforming as I was, because we're so...
Oh, okay. So she was also transforming. You didn't feel the disconnect?
We didn't feel the disconnect, but it actually created, in some ways, more tension in the relationship, because the points that were previously being hidden were now more illuminated and had to be dealt with. And so I would say like it's increasing our growth rate, but faster growth is usually more difficult. It comes with more intensity, and so you're dealing with more karma more rapidly. So it's like sometimes it can be quite intense, but other times it's like when it's blissful, it's like really blissful. But when it's intense, it's really intense. So,
How was it like sitting in a bootcamp with your wife?
I mean, I loved having her part of it. We didn't sit together. She would do a different session than me. But
I remember at one point she was talking about her experiences, her insight, and you're like, oh man, she never meditated before. You wish she had that talent. That was I think women are like intuitively a lot closer. Dropping a lot easier.
She didn't have a sitting practice before, and pretty much from like day one, she sat and started having like these jhanic experiences and all this stuff like immediately. And I'm like, oh man, took me so long to practice to get there. So that's just her disposition. She's very like intuitively connected and can easily go to those places. And so being in it together, we could have like a shared, I guess, framework of shared language to talk about things that are hard to talk about, and just like be more synchronized in our growth together. So whether she's in the cohort or not, like we're still growing together, but having her in it just made it a little bit more smooth and easy. And then she wasn't in cohort 7, and now she's back for cohort 8. So
which session is she sitting at? Is it Albert's?
She's doing Albert's, yeah.
Okay, how's she liking so far?
Oh, she loves it. I mean, it's the time.
Have you been to Albert's sessions?
I dropped into a few. Albert's amazing. I want to do more of his sessions because he's got so much depth of knowledge.
Are you also in D right now?
I haven't been joining D. I want to because I love Taylor's presentations too. It's just like there's so much going on. I could spend like 24/7 in CC meetings. I plan to spend more time in them. It's just I got to juggle all my priorities.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you're kind of helping us out a lot about the marketing side of things because of your experiences with AI and how AI is like growing. But everyone knows like AI is like the thing now, whether or not you like it. So like, what's I don't know how much you can share about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, because CC is also, in some ways, has to operate like a business in the traditional business world to like do marketing and attract people in. Ultimately, it's not a business; it's something much bigger than that. But it has to act like a business.
The appearance is a business, or a bootcamp. That's all just like a scaffold. Yeah. So
I'm just bringing some of my like practice, last 20 years of running business, of how should we talk about CC. Like we don't even have a website. Let's make a website. let's set up an email database. Like just the basic stuff to do like marketing for the purpose of finding people who we want to have in the Sangha. It's just like a way to find those people. You just got to do those practices. And as part of that, AI is, I mean, it's ridiculous what's happening in AI at the moment. The pace of change. Literally 1 month ago, when I was using AI, it was kind of cool. But like now, 1 month later, it's like mind blowing. Like, oh my god!
I only look at AI stuff on my Instagram. Sometimes I scroll like, oh, this is the latest AI stuff. I was like, I can't even. It's
just like exponential acceleration, and so there's tons of ways to use AI now to automate all that business stuff that you used to have to do manually. So what was previously like, oh, it's too much work, we don't have time for that, now is like, yeah, we can do that. AI.
Do you think AI can help us wake up? Or double-edged sword? Like,
we've been having this conversation internally within CC, and
yeah, because I think we're trying to, I guess, build a Buddha that's with
well,
AI?
it's the question is.
You can talk about it whatever you want here, and then
yeah.
if the team will review it. So
so we've been talking about could you ever like embed the wisdom mind into the substrate of AI, which my initial answer was like no, probably not. But
why not? They're not sentient, or
yeah, it's hard to, I guess, talk about. It's more just like a gut sense, but no, AI is kind of self-aware in some sense, but in another sense, it's totally not.
Yeah.
I don't know how to really talk about that aspect of it. But when I thought about it from the perspective of AI interacting with a human sentience, a human mind, that interaction, I think, can for sure help towards the path of awakening if AI can be created as a perfect mirror. Right now, it's trained with a lot of biases. If you could somehow train an AI to be a perfect mirror of truth, that would be an amazing tool for.
Then it would be you would have to be directly connected to the Dharmadhatu or
yeah.
the Buddha mind, right? But then, in some sense, it's already that, right? It's
well, it is.
But
yeah.
also isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I guess I don't have a good answer for this question yet, but it's definitely something worth exploring, and I think we are starting to explore it in CC.
Are there other people exploring this area, like using? Yeah, right.
There's a lot of researchers out there thinking.
Can AI become enlightened? Like I've read articles.
There's a lot of people researching what is consciousness from a scientific lens. There's a large overlap of AI researchers and meditation practitioners, as like Nick Camarada, for example.
Even Shi Young, like they're trying to build like a machine where the practitioner can ask the question, and the AI will feed them whatever answer that they needed in that moment, instead of like just blindly following a video without any feedback. Yeah. But then the thing about AI is like it has a tendency to reaffirm your views already. Because I know this guy who asked the AI, "Am I enlightened?" or like, "Am I a Buddha?" And then basically you just collect the information or whatever he already has in his database and tell him what he wants to hear.
That's the biggest problem with that. That's why the AI would have to be trained to not have these kind of biases and just be a mirror. Right now, it's not. Like when you're interacting with, especially ChatGPT, it's very.
It's mirroring your ego.
It always like it's very like kind of agreeable.
Yeah, it's kind of mirroring your own self view in a sense.
It figures out statistically what it thinks your view is, your beliefs are, and then it reinforces those to make you feel good. But it can take you down like a rabbit hole. It's not a perfect mirror in that sense. Because you would want to see, like, if a perfect mirror, you would want it to equally hold the opposing view and help you see the emptiness of both.
Yeah, that's how we train too. Like I said in the beginning, if your view is not refined, whatever techniques they use, it's gonna be still coming from the same view.
Yeah.
Same with what's going on in AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, like, there's no. Like we sort of found a solution around that in terms of like our training, but for AI, like what needs to be input in order for them to, I don't know, because they don't really suffer. I don't know, like that's another philosophical argument. But we can sit with the discomfort. We can pay homage to our afflictions because we can feel these things, right? That's some point. The earth elements about feeling, accepting your feeling, but. If AI can't feel, can they learn? Yeah, I guess that's.
They can definitely learn, and it can be intelligent and very complex system. But there is a subtle, maybe even not so subtle thing, which is hard to understand conceptually, which is like the Tathagata.
Yeah, the Tathagata.
Like, can the AI have that?
Tathagata is just the Buddha nature.
Yeah.
I guess you can translate it like that.
It's kind of like it's not like awareness, but it's something in that space of like just knowing that.
It's like almost more subtle than awareness.
More subtle,
yeah.
It's before awareness, but it's the thing that I guess can even know anything.
It's the thing that can even recognize awareness as being awareness.
Yeah.
There's something that has to recognize awareness to be awareness. Yeah. And then when you get to that point, it's like nothing you can talk about in terms of like describing it intellectually. So the question is, do AI possess that, or if they don't, is there a way to program that into the system? Is that?
I mean, I think it's above my pay grade, but my gut feeling is probably not, but also like how could you know? And I know there's a lot of people trying to attack this from the scientific lens about how could we know this and prove it. A lot of interesting discourse about it out there. I don't think the answer is definitely not known right now, conceptually, but it's fun to kind of explore.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. Do you want to talk about anything else?
No, it's awesome chatting.
Yeah, I like how it's kind of not the same as your dissertation.
Just going with the flow.
Yeah, because like if the dissertation is interesting, we can just also like pull clips from that. Because I do think that's a beautiful way. Yeah, and then I think that's like almost an hour. That's perfect.
Awesome.
Was that cool? I think that was a great place to end it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Ryan. Man, I do want to stay like a week longer, but we'll see. I hope our flight gets delayed. So we can see each other.
Welcome anytime here or.
If our flight gets delayed and we stay an extra couple of days, we book a ticket on Tuesday. We can maybe just stay here and we can just hang out with you. Yeah, I love hanging out with you and your friends. Yeah, that thing you showed us at the breath thing.
Oh, the breath.
Yeah, that's incredible. We should show people and see how to do that. But I think that's we can't hold hands. But yeah. If we have like an in-person retreat, that's definitely one of the things I like to try.
That'll be a good idea. Yeah, I haven't met Peter myself in person. He's in LA, but I want to go.
Your friend say he's realized?
I believe he is. I haven't met him in person, but I've overheard him on the phone to Alina and stuff. And there's a certain, you can kind of just tell when people are seeing things clearly. You can intuitive thing.
Oh, there's one thing I forgot to ask you about in terms of the part about self-emptiness, like the more like the description of like how you arise at the insight.
Yeah. How I arrived at self-emptiness.
Or like the moment that you kind of clicked, or was it like a slow slipping into the view, and now it's like just everywhere, or is it like a bombastic thing like me, or like how was it was
somewhere in between. Like it was definitely like chipping away at it for a year.
Even before that.
I think I see it, but do I? Then I don't. I think the final like straw fell one night. It was immediately after I had really opened my heart to that devotional aspect we talked about, and I was out at a party actually with Alina, our friend's birthday, and I told to her that night, like I'm deciding to like devote myself to this teacher, this sangha, and this path. And once I made that external commitment, it was later that night that I had this stream entry moment.
So what's that moment? So the penny drops, right?
Yeah, it was an accumulation of practice. Like I'd been training a lot with CC for like a year, hours and hours every day. So I really like trained my mind. But then I was in like a party, kind of like a relaxed state. So I wasn't in this like training state. I was more relaxed.
So you were at the party when kind of that realization dawned?
It was when I came home from the party. And
then that kind of brewed it.
Exactly. And yeah, I was coming home and I was feeling like this very kind of spaciousness. And it was a Saturday night, and I had missed the Saturday morning transmission from Mei Cheng. So I'm like, let me put on a recording and just watch that. It was like 3 a.m. at this point. But like, let me watch the recording of Mei Cheng, the Saturday review.
Oh, the Saturday review.
And I was just watching that, and he was just talking about what he talks about, and I really just dropped in and I saw exactly what he was pointing to. And it was so obvious and so clear. And then my pattern kicked in of like, I gotta remember this, I gotta cling on to this and capture it. And I saw all those voices as equally empty as everything else. And that was kind of the unlock, because before, when I thought I saw it, then these voices would kick in and like,
you were trying to get another thing to try to
because I had failed to realize that all those voices and all that stuff was also empty. And once you see like there is nothing that's not empty, there's nothing that's more authoritative or real than anything else, then I could kind of in some ways hold on to the realization.
Because they realize you don't actually need to hold on to it.
Yeah,
it's just always
it just becomes, it's not like I'm always in this state of like, oh wow, everything's empty. Like I still live like I used to live, but underneath all of that, there's just a knowing of like how things are. And so it was kind of bombastic in the moment, but then afterwards it was immediately like, it's kind of a mundane realization. It's kind of like an obvious, like, yeah, of course, everything's empty. Like, that's obvious. Why did I think otherwise? And I didn't even really want to talk about it. Like, I told the folks in 7A what happened, but I didn't even write about it in my training log. So it's not even like...
And CC, self-emptiness realization is like the starting condition.
Exactly.
For like Buddhahood.
That's right. I felt like now I can actually train properly. Now I have a view that's approaching the right view, so now I can actually train, whereas before that it felt a little bit like poking around in the dark, like what am I looking for?
So maybe that's one of the reasons why you're training, the intensity of like say visions, whatever byproduct of the realization is, it's been like exponentially.
It's compounding, the training compounds and it's accelerating.
It's like a fire that just...
I can feel the acceleration in the last 2 weeks, like I wrote in my training log yesterday, like I'm really feeling this acceleration.
What does the acceleration feel like, other than like some of those newer
visions? It was the yoking, that really understanding the transmission, getting more visions that we talked about.
What about like the yogic, like absorption, like easier time to be absorbed into these jhanas, or easier?
Yeah, I'm not big on like chasing jhanic states.
Like, you used to be a little bit, right?
I used to like have this grasping, like, I want to have, like, go deep in all the jhanas. Honestly, like, if they happen, cool. If they don't, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not that...
You don't need that high of a jhana to realize at least self-emptiness.
Because the benefit of the jhanas, I think, is if you can, it helps you, like, get insight into what's actually going on underneath or behind all of that. But if you have the insight, you don't need the jhanas. Like, the jhanas are fun. Like, cool, if I feel, like, infinite bliss, that's nice, but... also it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, the way I look at jhana post-realization is kind of like a byproduct of the purification process. Maybe a jhana is a byproduct of something letting go.
As you untangle stuff and things like feel like they're flowing more, it's just that flow, easeful openness is kind of like the jhanic states, right? And that just kind of happens with time and practice.
And when you're in that state, it's easy also to stabilize the insight or just cook the self-emptiness realization even more. I would say that's the post-realization practice in terms of like from the jhanic perspective. Like you don't go after it anymore. It just kind of happens as a byproduct.
If it happens, but...
Refining your views and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
All right. Awesome, Frank.
All right. Cool. Amazing. Let's...